From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Gas prices in Arizona have fallen below the national average. We'll take a look at how much consumers are saving across the state.
Plus, the holiday season is right around the corner, why some Arizona retailers could see visitors from south of the border in the state's future.
And from protests at the Capitol to cuts in the classroom, we're taking a closer look at education funding and Arizona's Latino population.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Sydney Glenn.
And I'm Audrey Wheel. Thanks for joining us. Arizona gas prices have dropped for more than 108 consecutive days, according to AAA representatives. Now Arizona averages below the national price per gallon. Devin Conley is in Phoenix to see exactly how much consumers are saving.
I'm standing outside the Circle K in Phoenix, where we see gas prices have slid 6 cents since last week to $2.01. We haven't seen gas prices like this since February. When Joe Cady began his journey across the country, he knew gas would be a factor.
It's normal to us now. We've been doing this for a long time, but it's something we just, planned for from the beginning.
Cady is a roadie for a touring metal band, so when he filled up in Phoenix, he was pleasantly surprised.
First part of this tour, we were probably filling the van up for at least 20% less than what we normally would.
According to AAA, Arizona has seen gas prices drop for 8.5 months all around the state.
You look around town, there's many stations that are inching closer to that $2 benchmark, and there are also a handful of stations that are even below that $2 benchmark at this time. So consumers are saving considerably at the pump.
According to AAA reports, the state's highest prices per gallon are found in Flagstaff at around $2.37. Tucson is the lowest with $1.99, while the Phoenix Mesa area averages around $2.03 per gallon. As of this morning, the state averages around $2.13. This is 6 cents less than the national average of $2.19. AAA says falling crude oil prices and ample domestic supplies are the reason behind the low prices.
We're much more reliant on our West pipeline, which derives from California for fuel. There was an expansion of our East pipeline. There's 2 pipelines that supply fuel to Arizona. One comes in from the west, one comes in from the east. We expanded that East pipeline, so we receive about half of our fuel from the east and half from the west. Prior to that expansion, it was more of like a 70-30, 60-40 split.
And consumers are happy to see the change.
It keeps people like me paid so I can work for the band and keeps the show on the road, basically.
According to AAA, even with Arizona at an 8.5-month low, we should still expect to see prices decline. In Phoenix, Devin Conley, Cronkite News.
Visitors from Mexico spend billions of dollars here in Arizona. Most have border crossing cards that only allow them to travel within a 75-mile zone that ends up in Tucson. Phoenix and other cities in the valley are pushing to expand the border zone statewide. Cronkite News reporter Katie Beery looks at the possible impact in Maricopa County.
The Outlets at Anthem is among the first to put up a Christmas tree. For retailers here, it's never too early to start shopping for the holidays. But on their wish list, an expanded border zone.
The impact would not just be limited down south across this area.
Right now, visitors from Mexico are limited to traveling in a 75-mile area that ends in Tucson, unless they get a special permit. The Maricopa Association of Governments wants that border zone expanded statewide.
It would send quite a message to our friends down south that Arizona is open for business.
And the mayor of Youngtown is among those rolling out the welcome mat.
They're largely affluent middle-class Mexicans that want to come to our state and spend money. They're not the people that are trying to sneak across the border.
If the border zone is expanded, visitors from Mexico are expected to spend an additional $181 million in Arizona next year. The Outlets at Anthem wants its share of those shoppers.
We thrive on that. We love that we're a destination location for all of our tourists.
Employees at the Outlets of Anthem are gearing up for a huge Christmas season. This is actually the tallest Christmas tree in the country, believe it or not. By this time next year, the mall hopes more families will be able to go that extra mile for their holiday shopping. In Anthem, Katie Beery, Cronkite News.
The Maricopa Association of Governments will present a proposal to extend the border zone to the Department of Homeland Security in the spring. It's up to the federal government to decide whether to extend it or not.
From a mission to boost the state's economy to changes in our education system, Governor Doug Ducey has made his mark in his first year in office. To talk about some of those issues and the year ahead in politics, Governor Ducey will sit down tomorrow in a special one-on-one interview in the Executive Tower with Arizona Horizon host Ted Simons.
Obviously, with the education funding lawsuit being settled, at least as far as the plaintiffs and defendants are concerned, that would be a major topic of conversation. Education in general. I want to get into the economy as well, because Arizona still lags the country and even lags peer states in the region on economic recovery, getting back to where we were before the recession.
Ducey will appear on Arizona Horizon right here on Arizona PBS tomorrow after Cronkite News.
It's election day, and across the state, Arizona voters will be deciding on a number of issues, most of them bond measures. After budget cuts to education, many school districts are asking for more funding through bond sales. In Pima County, voters will weigh in on a nearly $816 million bond package that would benefit almost 100 county projects. That's the largest bond package ever introduced. And in Tucson, voters will decide whether or not the city should outlaw traffic cameras.
Datos, the state of Arizona's Hispanic market, predicts that by 2020, the majority of K-12 students in Arizona will be Latino. However, since the Great Recession, officials say that the Latino population and other minority communities were impacted by more than $1 billion in education funding cuts. Cronkite News reporter Julia Thatcher learned just how big this problem is.
Is a big problem, the education gap for Latino students. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 30% of people living in Arizona are Hispanic. So why is more not being done to close the gap in education?
According to research conducted by Morrison Institute, only 17% of Latinos in Arizona have an associate's degree or higher.
It is the Latino demographics that we have to focus on because of the educational gap between that population and the other population. So I think this is a good beginning.
Hispanic leaders met today to discuss how the state's education funding plan will impact students, but also what they can do to help close this gap.
So we need to change expectations in the living room, but also in the classroom. Teachers need to expect more from students. Institutional, we need to expect Latinos to graduate.
Officials shared statistics and data from studies conducted, but the overall message from today was that closing the gap is for more than just the Latino communities.
Latinos need to be a part of that successful future. That's going to help your kids also succeed as well. So it isn't a matter of competition. It isn't Latinos versus whites or versus anyone else. It's that we're all in this together.
Other research on the education gap in Latino communities can be found at morrisinstitute.asu.edu. In the Media Center, Julia Thatcher, Cronkite News.
The mental health system in Maricopa County is getting a facelift. Jesse Schultz found out just how many changes have already happened and what's expected in the upcoming months.
Mercy Maricopa made changes in all of the main crisis providers in the valley. This includes a relocation and expansion of the Psychiatric Urgent Care Center in Phoenix, the opening of a psychiatric emergency room in Mesa, and the addition of respite beds at the one in Peoria. Officials from Mercy Maricopa told me they want to change the way mental health is accessed and dealt with throughout the valley.
I look at what we do at the UPC now, I look at what we're going to be doing in this building, and it's still not good enough, right? It's really not. But it is so much better.
Providers and advocates are widening the door to the healthcare system in Maricopa County, literally. The open house for the relocation and expansion of Connections AZ Urgent Psychiatric Care Center was a reason to celebrate. The changes included a 24/7 hotline, crisis mobile teams, walk-in lobbies with no denial of help, and more respite beds to allow someone in a crisis to take the time they need to relax.
And so you could say that in a really very short time, in less than a year, we went from less than 50 crisis beds available to the community to about 150.
The new changes are also expected to take a load off of ERs and give police more options for people who need help, not jail time.
So it's going to be a lot easier for us to bring someone down here, get them into intake, and get back out on the streets.
Mercy Maricopa wants to change mental health from an outsider's perspective, too.
We have to work really extra hard in getting back out and getting ahead of this stigma.
We still have a long ways to go. This building is nothing more than a blank slate. It's an unfinished building today, and the crisis system is unfinished. This is a blank slate in which we need to experiment, continue to criticize, continue to think of what can we do better? How can we treat people better?
Connections AZ Urgent Psychiatric Care Center is set to open in December. The collaboration of the crisis center providers will serve the 4 million plus people that live in Maricopa County, one of the biggest in the nation. In the broadcast center, Jesse Schultz, Cronkite News. Some of Arizona's Washington delegation are celebrating a small victory
for their legislation and for Arizona veterans.
In this Congress that's actually gotten through the House and the Senate and signed by the President that solves a problem.
We'll tell you why Congresswoman Martha McSally pushed a bill to put Arizona veterans at the border.
And with the CNBC debate over, we'll take a look at a new poll and see who is ahead, behind, and a surprise surge from one candidate.
At ASU, we believe the most important semester is the one that starts after you get your diploma, the one called life. So we work hard to help our alumni thrive, teaching them the importance of not only achieving their goals, but exceeding them. With innovative programs that embrace hands-on learning, that encourages real-world growth. Our alumni know it can be the education of a lifetime, for a lifetime. For more information, asu.edu.
This is a box that showed you a world beyond your own. It was just a box. But the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
Are you a news junkie, history buff, science or nature lover? Then discover 8 World, an entire channel devoted to bringing the world home to Arizona. Watch 8 World on Cox 88 or over the air via antenna on 8.3. To find out how to tune into 8 World for your satellite or another cable provider, visit azpbs.org/world or call 602-496-2308. Discover your world. 8 World.
My child who's watching Super Y, and it said, what letter makes the sound R? And my 2-year-old is jumping up and down going, R, R, R. I love that. I wish I knew the genius that came up with Dinosaur Train. I mean, what little boy especially doesn't like dinosaurs and trains and to put them together in one show? My family does without a lot of stuff, but I would be horrified if we had to do without PBS.
A new bill recently signed by President Obama would require the U.S. Border Patrol to give priority in hiring to veterans. The legislation was backed by Senators John McCain and Jeff Flake, as well as Representative Martha McSally. Adriana Barajas is live in Washington, D.C. with the details.
That's right, Audrey. In hearings on the Jobs for Veterans Act, the Department of Homeland Security said it had yet to fill 1,200 of the 2,000 new Border Patrol jobs approved by Congress in 2014. That gave Congresswoman Martha McSally an idea.
And so the idea came from seeing 2 issues in our community.
Those issues, understaffed ports of entry on the border and the continued high unemployment of veterans. That's how the idea came to Congresswoman Martha McSally. A law aimed to provide job opportunities for veterans while meeting staffing needs at the border.
This is a win-win if you actually just bring veterans over and actively recruit them and fast-track their clearances, because these veterans all have background checks and clearances done already.
In a statement, Senator Jeff Flake praised this effort, saying, I am proud to have signed into law a bill that will help put veterans to work, improve national security, increase cross-border trade, and grow Arizona's economy, all at no additional cost to the taxpayer. Steve Dunwoody, an advocate for veterans, calls it a good first step, but
there are a number of different things that can be done that can go further in truly attacking the unemployment problem amongst veterans.
Problems that can be addressed by other alternatives
Includes, giving tax incentives to businesses, money for job training, helping, veterans to make that transition.
But McSally says this effort will not only improve the lives of veterans, but it will also increase border security.
But it's a very important issue to Southern Arizona. It's important for our economic trade opportunities between Mexico, which is our #1 trading partner for Arizona, and it's important for veterans who are looking for good jobs. So who would be against this?
The bill was signed by President Obama 2 weeks ago and took effect immediately. Reporting live in Washington, D.C., Adriana Barajas, Cronkite News.
Officials from Meredith, Arizona's nonprofit insurance program, are meeting with regulators today, hoping to get their health care plans back on the market. The Department of Insurance pulled Meredith from the federal market over concerns that it might fail. The suspension of Meredith means around 59,000 people will have to find new coverage.
With the CNBC Republican debate over, a new poll by NBC and the Wall Street Journal is showing some changes in support. The poll shows Ben Carson as the frontrunner, leading Donald Trump 29 to 23%. That's the highest percentage any GOP candidate has obtained so far in the survey. But Senator Marco Rubio has seen a surge to third place, sitting now at 11%. The poll surveyed the likely GOP primary voters both before and after last week's debate, hosted by CNBC.
At the Capitol today, Paul Ryan gave his first news conference as the new Speaker of House. Ryan said he believes the next couple of years will decide what kind of country the U.S. will be, and that the speakership is his primary focus.
Look, I'm not concerned about the presidential election. That's going to work itself out. What I am concerned about is making sure that we do our jobs here. We were elected by our constituents to represent their interests here in Congress, and that's what we're going to do.
Ryan also said he is committed to a complete set of changes to House rules to make it a more deliberative and participatory process.
As for former Speaker John Boehner, a special election will be held for his congressional seat. Boehner said there is one thing he will miss the most about being in Congress.
Oh, I'm sure I'll miss the people around here most. We get to do important things, get to put our fingerprints on the direction of the country, fingerprints on history, but at the end of the day, it's the people you meet that make this job so rewarding.
The special election is set for June. Until then, the seat is under the authority of the Clerk of the House.
Our Arizona earthquakes on Sunday caught a lot of people off guard.
But emergency responders say they are ready for the next one. Coming up on Cronkite News, we'll show you how Valley firefighters have prepared to save people if the big one ever hits here.
Plus, it's the latest move in Washington to protect millions more acres of land around the Grand Canyon.
Growing up, my family had no real idea of where we came from. It's kind of like being in a fog because you feel like a piece of you is missing. What is the rest of my story? I saw African American Lives on PBS. I love the series, and there was a DNA kit that you could order to find out your African ancestry. And so I really got excited. My DNA results said that I was from Ghana. Wow. It just really opened me up to a whole new world, so I went ahead and started doing things. Now my mission is to write stories to have something to pass down to the next generation. It's important to know where you're from and to tell your children and teach them that. PBS helped me to go on a journey to discover who I was, and that journey will never end. What are you doing?
Possibilities. Your day is filled with them.
Reach up, energy in the fingertips, collapse. TV, play Downton Abbey.
And PBS helps everyone discover theirs. Anytime, anywhere.
Up in the sky, you can see it.
PBS, we're with you for life.
Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva introduced a bill today to create a new national monument to protect the Grand Canyon watershed and honor the region's Native American culture. The Greater Grand Canyon Heritage National Monument Act would protect the areas you see outlined in red. Approximately 1.7 million acres of federal land surrounding Grand Canyon National Park. The bill follows President Obama's decision to place a 20-year moratorium on new mining claims on 1 million acres of federal land surrounding the park. The monument bill was developed with input from the Grand Canyon Associated Tribes and endorsed by the Navajo Nation, the Hopi, Havasupai, and Wallapai Indian tribes. The Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs is preparing for an earthquake disaster that would make Sunday night's quakes near Black Canyon City feel like hitting a speed bump. Tomorrow, several federal, state, and local agencies will conduct a day-long exercise to test their ability to respond to a magnitude 7.0 earthquake. That will include everything from medical drills to using amateur radio as a primary form of communication. State officials say the exercise is a good reminder to the public to be prepared in the event of an emergency. Create a family communication plan with an out-of-town contact and an evacuation route. Build a 72-hour emergency supplies kit with food, water, first aid, and prescriptions. And get informed on what hazards may occur in your community. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Fire Department held an event at its Special Operations Training Site on earthquake preparation. Firefighters worked along with Arizona Task Force 1 members to share important safety tips. The department's rapid response team also demonstrated how they use powerful equipment to shore up unstable structures and cut concrete to remove people who are trapped. Firefighter Ardell DeLees says it won't be possible to find these victims without their trained search dogs.
These dogs are live fine dogs, and what they do is they go out, they have been trained, and they go out and sense if there's somebody that is alive under the pile, and then they are trained to be able to actually make a special bark when they find somebody.
According to the Phoenix Fire Department, their firefighters are at the Special Operations Building training weekly, and their dogs are by their side around the clock.
Cooler weather means more hikers out on the trails.
And that means more rescues when those hikers aren't prepared. Coming up on Cronkite News, what you can do to make sure you're ready for that outdoor trek.
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
The easiest and best way to support Arizona PBS is by becoming a sustaining member. Your monthly contribution of $5 or more comes directly from your bank account or credit card, so you know your membership is always current. It also means no more renewal notices in your mailbox. So more of your dollars go to the programs you love. It's convenient for you, greener for us, and better for the planet. Become a sustaining member today.
Hi, I'm Judy Woodruff, co-anchor of the PBS NewsHour. Preparing the next generation of journalists has never been more important than it is now. With its groundbreaking partnership with Arizona PBS, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at ASU is revolutionizing journalism education to provide students with a real opportunity to work and learn under the supervision of veteran journalists, producers, directors, and editors on newscasts, investigative stories, and documentary productions. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, reinventing journalism education in the digital age.
Park rangers start to see more hikers this time of year, which increases the chances for mountain rescues. Cronkite News reporter Maria Estrada learned how to avoid some of those common hiking mistakes.
The excruciating hot temperatures have taken a hike, and park visitor Mustafa Dekone is enjoying a walk at the White Tank Regional Mountain Park.
We decided to just come out and enjoy the nature, get us out of our natural habitat.
He plans to stay safe to keep out of harm's way. Park Ranger Jessica Bland says preparedness is key.
It's very important to know your limits
If you're not used to hiking in the desert environment, I would recommend starting off small, a mile or two at a time or even less.
The White Tanks Park had 9 rescues and 8 injuries since January. Bland says it's important to stay hydrated, but there's another common mistake people make.
So don't forget snacks. Many people are diligent about drinking water, but they forget to drink snacks, and that can cause just as many problems as not drinking enough water.
You always want to come prepared to avoid the most common mistakes people make, and although many of us may rely on our cell phones, keep in mind that there are certain areas that also lack signal.
Cell phone is always a great safety measure, but it's not something that you can totally rely on. What you can rely on is knowing where you're going, sticking to the plan, and follow the marked trails that are on the maps.
The Phoenix Fire Department is responsible for Phoenix parks like Payastoa Peak, Camelback Mountain, and South Mountain.
It's beautiful here, the weather's great. However, wear proper clothing, proper footing, make sure you hydrate, you've eaten a nutritious meal, and you've told someone where you're going.
Adekune plans to stay vigilant and keep safe.
Watch out for rattlesnakes. Don't want to get bit.
And don't forget to enjoy the beauty you find on those trails. In Phoenix, Maria Estrada, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's next on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
Coming up after Cronkite News, it's Arizona Horizon. Learn about awards that honor efforts to support the state's court system, and we'll hear about pragmatic solutions to the extinction of species.
I'm Gwen Eiffel. On the next NewsHour, we sit down with the woman in charge of the UN's upcoming summit on climate change. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.